Hello everyone and welcome back. So in today's video, we are going to talk about custom hooks. In our previous videos, we've been looking at how we can utilize the already created hooks, right? Now it's time for us to also look at how we can implement our own custom hooks. So that is what this video is about. And for this and more, let's dive into it. So hooks are reusable functions, okay? So let's say when you have a component logic that needs to be implemented in multiple components, then we can extract that particular component logic and then create a custom hook for it. And in this video, we are going to look at how we can actually create a custom hook for fetching of to-do list, okay, or to-do data. And we are going to be fetching this particular to-dos from JSON placeholder, okay. So I'm going to leave the link down below. You can just hop on it later. Okay. So JSON placeholder basically gives us endpoints where we could fetch to-dos. Okay. And this some of the way you can implement it. So you have your fetch here and then you pass in your URL. You convert the response to a JSON and then you can now get your data right here. Okay. So now let's go to implementation stage. I already have the implemented version here, which we are going to build on it. Okay. So what I've basically done is I have imported the use state and then use effect right here. Okay. So the use state is what we are going to use to store our states and keep track of our state variable. Okay. We have our data and then our set data to update our data. And then by default it's now. Okay. Down here we have our use effect. Okay, which we are passing in a function, and it should just run once. Okay, that's why we have empty bracket here. We have our fetch, and of course we are passing our URL. We are passing in our URL, and then here we are converting the response to a JSON. Once we get the data here, we store it in our state, which is using the state data. Okay, so we set our data to data. That is basically what is happening there. And then here we are checking whether the data is in existence. Okay, so once the data exists, we kind of map through the data and then we populate it right here. Okay, and that is what is currently showing here. So this is a list of to-dos. Once you refresh it, it's basically the same thing. Okay, now with this implementation, we are going to look at how we can create our own custom component. Okay, so we can create our own custom hook to take care of this. Assuming we have a different component that uses this same thing, but then let's say a different URL. Okay, then we can create our own custom hook for it. So I'll come to my source folder here and I'm going to create a folder called hooks, and then inside my hooks I'm going to create a file. Let's say use fetch.js. Okay, so once I create it, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to do the same thing here, right? So we are going to import. So let me just bring it here, import. Okay, and I'm going to create a function which is called use fetch. Great. And then let's go back to our application. Let's cut everything here, and then let's go and paste it right here. Okay, great. So once we paste it, let's kind of do some adjustment here. Okay, so down here, that is this function, right? I want to return the data, so return data. Okay, and then down here I'm going to export this use fetch function as default, so export default. Great. Boom. This is basically how to create your own custom hook, right? So we are using our use state again right here. We are using our use effect or use effect here, and then we are calling our JSON placeholder in our fetch. We get the data, we convert it into JSON, we store the data here, right? And then here we are passing in the data right here. So this data is passed here. So it means once you call this function, the return value should be data, right? Now let's go back to our application and then let's see. We are going to call use fetch, right? And then let's come here, then let's do this. So it returns a data. Okay, now one thing is, because we want to make it reusable, it will be advisable to kind of remove this, okay, and then pass in a prop. So I will come to the top here. I'm going to pass in a URL right here, and then it means this use effect should be called whenever the URL changes. Okay, and then now we go back to application, and then when you hover over this, it's expecting a URL. Okay, we are going to pass in the URL right here. So we've made this one, or this use effect, reusable, or the logic. So this logic, we've made it reusable, so we can call it in every component where we want to fetch the data. Okay, and then now, as you can see, we have the data being populated. So let's save this. Let's go back to application and let's see if it works. So I'm going to click on refresh, and as you can see, everything works perfectly, right? So we've been able to implement our own custom hook just in like 2 minutes. I think 2 minutes was even much, right? So this is the basic way of implementing your own custom hook. Yeah, so hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, kindly click on the subscribe button, like this video, share this video with friends, and see you in the next one. Happy coding.